film with no hated characters is a dead movie. I believe that for a film to really last, it needs faces the audience loves instantly, and it also needs people who make you want to punch them the second they show up. That is Uncle Buck, a family comedy released in 1989, directed by John Hughes with John Candy at his peak. But honestly, what keeps Uncle Buck alive all these years is the characters. Some you wish you had in your own home. Others are so irritating you cannot even let them finish a sentence. And that is why this movie never really stops being talked about, revisited, and debated. So who is the most loved character in Uncle Buck? Who is the most hated? And do your feelings actually match what most audiences think? Let's get into it. And make sure you stay till the end because I have 5 more really interesting facts about the movie and these characters waiting for you. Number 1, most loved, Buck Russell. The first most loved name is probably not hard to guess because Buck is the kind
I'm your
of
Uncle Buck.
we all wish we had. And that feeling does not just live in the memories of people who grew up with this movie. On Ranker Buck, Russell sits at number 1 on the list of the most memorable John Hughes characters in a poll with more than 200 fans and a total of 1,900 votes. And it does not stop there. In a broader poll about favorite movie characters, Buck still pulled in 372 votes. That alone tells you this is not a character people remember just for fun. Buck is the kind of role people keep bringing up years later. What makes Buck work is a very specific kind of masculine contradiction. On the surface, he is the last guy you would trust with 3 kids. He smokes, gambles on horse racing lives, messy talks like he does not care about being a role model. But the more you watch, the more you realize he is the most reliable person in that house. Buck bonds with Miles and Maisie faster than anyone steps in to defend Maisie against Vice Principal Anita Hoargarth, throws himself into a birthday party falling apart just to save it for Miles, then sees right through Bug before any other adult is willing to. And when Tia really goes too far, Buck gives up a life-changing horse race opportunity just to go find her. That is the moment that defines him. You stop just laughing at Buck. You start believing in him. I think men from this generation respect Buck because he does not try to act like a good guy. He does not say nice lines to make himself look better. He just shows up at the right moment and does what needs to be done. That kind of man always carries weight on screen. That is why so many viewers on IMDb talk about Buck as possibly John Candy's best performance. And honestly, I do not think that's an exaggeration at all. At the end of the day, Buck lasts this long because John Candy brought a real warmth into the role. Macaulay Culkin later remembered him as someone with a strong fatherly energy, someone who paid attention, protected people, and cared in ways not many did. So when you look at Buck Russell, you are not just seeing a funny character, you are seeing a genuinely decent human being behind it. John Candy was a man with a heart of gold. He will always be remembered and loved, but the next name is the complete opposite. This is the most hated character, the kind that makes you want to reach through the screen and punch him. Curious who that is, eh? Number 2, most hated, Bug. If Buck is the uncle everyone wants, Bug is the kind of boyfriend no uncle, no father, no older brother wants standing at the front door. I am being honest here. This is the type of guy teenage girls might fall for, but parents, grown women, and experienced men take one look and immediately see a red flag. Even I disliked Bug almost from the first minute, and I would bet a lot of male viewers felt the exact same way watching this movie. The smart thing is the movie does not try to hide that at all. The plot summary of Uncle Buck makes it very clear that Buck quickly sees Bug as a bad influence on Tia. Then the movie goes straight ahead, proving Buck is completely right. Tia sneaks out to a party with Bug. Buck has to choose between a horse race that could change his life and going to find her. He chooses Tia. Then he catches Bug with another girl, locks him in a car trunk, and forces him to apologize. Simple as that, Bug is not a misunderstood character. He is a verdict the movie already delivered ahead of time. The way the movie is remembered later stays just as direct. In an official clip, Bug is straight up called a sleazy boyfriend and manipulative. Sounds harsh. Sure, But unfair, I do not think so. Bug is not remembered as Tia's awkward first love. He is remembered as the kid Buck saw through instantly the moment they met. You will understand why Bug is so easy to hate when you hear about the behind the scenes. Jay Underwood said the role was originally written as a punk rocker, and he kept that energy right from the audition. The famous trunk scene also had a lot of improvisation to the point where some of his angry reactions were almost real. So Bug is not annoying by accident. He was built to make you uncomfortable from the start, and he does it really well. Honestly, do you think Buck was wrong about Bug at any point? I do not. But if Bug is the kind of guy who makes adults frown instantly, the next name is the total opposite, someone everyone young and old ends up loving. Number 3, most loved, Miles Russell. After a name that sets off alarms, the next loved character is a kid who talks so much he almost steals the whole movie.
Where's your wife?
Don't have one.
That is Miles Russell. And honestly, Miles is not the kind of kid people love just because he is cute. Movies like this have plenty of those. What makes Miles stand out is how quick he is, how he fires questions like a tiny detective, and how the energy in a scene instantly lifts the moment he walks in. In the character intro, Miles is described as the very talkative son of the Russell family. That is why I think Miles is loved in such a clear and solid way. A lot of retrospectives call Macaulay Culkin in Uncle Buck a total scene stealer, and Collider even said that without this scene-stealing role, Culkin might not have shot straight into Home Alone so quickly. I completely believe that. Just watch the mail slot interrogation scene and you will get it. Netflix Family even posted that exact clip with the line, "I'm a kid, that's my job," and honestly, they picked the perfect moment. That is Miles at his purest, sharp, natural, not trying too hard and having fun in exactly the way a real kid would when meeting a weird uncle like Buck. What I like even more is that Miles does not just shine on his own. He brings out the most lovable version of Buck. Some kids walk into a room and make adults want quiet. Miles does the opposite. He throws Buck off, makes the audience laugh, and turns this uncle-nephew relationship into the warmest thing in the movie. And here's a really memorable detail. According to Mental Floss, it was while filming the mail slot scene with Shanice that John Hughes came up with the idea for Home Alone. In other words, Miles is not just a loved character, he is the signal that a real child star was right there. Some kid characters are remembered just for being cute. Miles is remembered because he is sharp, real, and bright. And now we move to number 4, a name kids probably hate the most. Number 4, most hated, Anita Hoargarth. Honestly, I dislike this type of character in a very instinctive way because anyone who has gone to school has met someone like this before. No yelling, no obvious over-the-top behavior, just a cold voice, a judgmental look. And that habit of treating kids like defective objects is enough to make your blood boil. Anita is exactly that kind of person. She is the vice principal at Maisie's school, played by Suzanne Shepard, and even though she only has one major scene, it is enough to make her unforgettable in the worst way. What makes Anita so unlikable is not that she is harsh. It is that she talks about a 6-year-old like she is reading charges in court. In quotes saved on IMDb, she brags about having 31.3 years in education, then looks at Maisie and calls her a bad egg, a twiddler, a dreamer, a silly heart, a jabberbox, even saying the girl is not serious about her career as a student. I mean, come on, a 6-year-old being talked about like that who would not get mad hearing it. That is why the scene hits so hard. The audience does not just find Anita unpleasant, they see her as unfair. In other words, Anita is not remembered because she is interesting. She is remembered because she hits a very old, very real feeling, a child being unfairly labeled by an adult. If you have ever been in school and met someone like that, you understand immediately why Anita is here. But if Anita is the kind of adult who irritates everyone, the next name is completely different. Someone who starts off annoying, but ends up softening you. Can you guess who that is? Number 5 most loved, Tia Russell. Surprised? You might think this name belongs in the most hated category instead. I totally get that feeling because in the first half of the movie, Tia Russell really is the kind of kid who gives adults a headache. She openly disrespects Buck, clashes with her mother, treats her uncle like an embarrassment, and carries that attitude like the whole world is ruining her life. Roger Ebert even pointed this out, saying, Tia can feel too angry, too sharp at times, making it hard to connect with her right away. But that is exactly why I like how the movie uses her. Tia is not written to be loved from the first minute. She is written so you have to change your mind about her. To me, Tia is loved because she travels the longest distance. Miles and Maisie warm up to Buck almost instantly. Tia does not. She pushes back against him, pushes back against the whole new rhythm of the house, then runs toward Bug like it is the only thing she still has control over. That is a very teenage reaction, very stubborn, and honestly very real. IMDb and plot summaries both label her as a rebellious teenage niece, and the movie never tries to hide that. But because she is the biggest wall in the house, when that wall finally cracks, the audience feels it right away. What earns Tia her place among the love characters is the moment when Buck gives up that life-changing horse race to go find her. He catches Bug with another girl, forces him to apologize, and brings Tia home. That is when she realizes something simple but painful. The person she thought was the biggest outsider is actually the one truly on her side. Rotten Tomatoes has a great audience take, saying Uncle Buck is not just a comedy, but also a coming-of-age story for both Buck and Tia. Jean Louisa Kelly played Tia in her first film role, and she brought exactly the edge the character needed. Tia is not the kind of girl you love right away. She's the kind that annoys you first, then wins you over later. So let me ask you, which side are you on with Tia? Did you dislike her in the first half, or by the end did you realize you liked her more than you expected? Number 6. Most hated. Marcy Dahlgren Frost. If Tia is the kind of character who starts off annoying and then softens you, Marcy Dahlgren Frost goes the exact opposite direction. The more you watch, the more irritating she gets. And that kind of irritation feels very real. Honestly, anyone who has lived long enough has met someone like Marcy. Not exactly bad, not exactly toxic, but talks too much, pushes too far into your space, and has no idea where the line is. In Uncle Buck, Marcy is exactly that kind of neighbor. What puts Marcy here is not that she is a villain. It is that she makes everything that is already messy even messier. Just her introduction, Marcy Dahlgren Frost, with that explanation about her maiden name, married name, and the hyphen already tells you she is someone who does not know how to keep things short. From there, she keeps inserting herself into Buck's life, flirting, making things awkward in exactly the way a man who just wants peace would instantly hate. Even worse, her presence becomes the spark that lets Tia blow up a misunderstanding between Buck and Chanice. In other words, Marcy is not just annoying. She shows up at exactly the wrong time to push everything off track. What is interesting is that Marcy is not remembered in a simple way. Some viewers find her extremely annoying, but others remember her as the weirdest and funniest character in the whole movie. Funny Women even called her the weirdest and funniest character in the entire film, and another review said some of the funniest moments actually come from how over the top she is. I think that is fair. Marcy is the kind of character that gets on your nerves but is very hard to forget. Number 7. Most loved. Chanice Kobolowski. Chanice Kobolowski is the only person in the movie who looks at Buck Russell without getting blinded by his charm. That is why Chanice is loved. Not because she is the funniest, not because she stands out the most, but because she is the only one clear-headed enough to love Buck and still say it straight to his face. You need to grow up. Vanity Fair called Chanice the straight woman to John Candy and the longtime girlfriend who puts up with Buck, while people in 2026 also mentioned her as someone whose patience gets tested by a boyfriend who is both lovable and irresponsible. In other words, Chanice is not there to decorate Buck. She is there to keep him from drifting into a man who just coasts through life. I respect Chanice for that. She does not get swept up in Buck's live-in-the-moment attitude. She understands him, but she does not idolize him. She wants a home, a steady job, something that looks like a future. And Buck, as AV Forms pointed out, spent 8 years making promises, avoiding responsibility, and only at the end agrees to work at her tire shop. To me, That is what makes Chanice stand above a lot of female characters in family comedies from that time. She is not standing there waiting to be loved, she is standing there as a test of whether Buck deserves to grow up. Even the way the character was created has its own flavor. Amy Madigan said John Hughes asked her what the character's name should be, and she was the one who suggested Chanice. I love that detail because it makes Chanice feel like a real person, not just a side character written to fill space, and that is probably why she sticks in people's memory for so long. There is no clean poll number for Chanice, but there is a very clear consensus she is the one who calls out Buck's flaws while still making us believe she truly loves him. To me, Chanice is loved because she does not just see Buck as he is. She sees who he could be. Number 8, most hated, Pooter the Clown. If Chanice is the one pushing Buck to think about being a better man, the next name is the kind of trouble that shows up late drunk and ruins what should have been a happy day.
I've seen a lot.
That is Pooter the Clown. I dislike this type of character in a very simple way.
I'm gonna go check on Maisie.
No need to be evil. No need to be manipulated. Just being an adult who shows up drunk at a child's birthday party is enough to lose all sympathy. That is exactly what Pooter is. In the plot summary, he is described as a clown who arrives late and intoxicated. This is the kind of person any father, uncle, or just decent human being would instantly get angry at. What puts Pooter here is not that he has a lot of screen time, it is the opposite. He is hated because he only needs a few minutes to ruin the whole atmosphere. Miles is waiting for his birthday party. Buck is trying to hold everything together. Then this clown stumbles in late acting, like the worst version of what that word means. I think this is where Buck's character really shows. He does not sit there analyzing whether the guy is struggling or deserves sympathy. He takes one look and knows this man is not stepping into that kid's party. And that punch Buck throws in that scene, no matter how you look at it, is still one of the most satisfying moments in the movie. A lot of retrospectives remember that exact scene mentioning Mike Starr as a drunk Pooter who shows up and instantly makes the audience want Buck to throw him out. What is interesting is that behind the scenes made it even more intense. Mike Starr told Cracked that John Hughes told him to go all out yelling at John Candy, and the original cut even had a longer fight on the lawn where Buck used a giant clown shoe to beat Pooter. In other words, Pooter is not annoying by accident. He was built to show up like a small disaster, then disappear after pushing the audience's frustration to the limit, and he does that job very well. Number 9, most loved, Maisie Russell. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who likes Maisie because she does not need a lot of lines, does not need to grab the spotlight, and still makes people like her almost instantly. That is a rare quality. Maisie is not loved in a loud way like Miles. She is loved because she brings into the movie exactly what a family film needs most: innocence, softness, and the feeling that this is still a home where kids actually live. And that is not just my personal take. The Rotten Tomatoes summary makes it clear that the two younger kids, Miles and Maisie, warm up to Buck quickly, while Tia does not. AV Forums also had a great line about Gabby Hoffman as Maisie, calling her an utter delight with cute charm and a winning smile. I think that is spot on. Maisie does not do anything huge, but every time she appears, the movie feels like it can breathe a little easier. That is not something every child actor can pull off. What really puts Maisie here is that she brings out the best version of Buck. The school scene with Anita Hoargarth shows that Buck is not just a funny uncle, but a grown man willing to stand up when a child is treated unfairly. Without Maisie, that scene would still be funny, but it would not hit nearly as hard. Maisie is the reason the audience sees Buck as more trustworthy, more vulnerable, and more worth caring about. I think men from this generation understand immediately why Maisie is loved. Some kids walk into a frame and you just soften without thinking. Maisie is exactly that kind. She does not take over the movie with dialogue, she takes it with presence. And sometimes, that is what lasts the longest. And now, can you guess the final name? Because the person at the end of this list is not really someone people argue about. It is the kind of adult who is right, but still hard to like. Number 10, most hated, Cindy Russell. This last name is very different from the rest. Cindy Russell is not the kind of character you hate the way you hate Bug, and she is not the kind of adult who makes you angry instantly like Anita Hoargarth. Cindy is more complicated than that. She is easy to understand but hard to like. And honestly, that kind of character can be even more frustrating because, she is not completely wrong, but you still do not want to be around her for too long. Cindy lands here because she carries exactly the kind of energy a lot of real families have: tension control, always being on the defensive. IMDb clearly notes that she openly says Buck is not the kind of person she feels comfortable trusting with her kids. And to be fair, she has a point. Buck is unemployed, gambles, smokes, and hangs around the wrong crowd. But Cindy's issue is somewhere else. She is right on paper, but she lacks warmth. Right from the start of the movie, just one exchange with Tia already shows that this house has been tense for a long time. That is why Cindy is placed here, not because she is bad, but because she is the kind of adult who always makes others feel judged. Cinema Days described her as uptight as they come, and another source pointed out how reluctant she is to leave the kids with Buck. The audience understands that concern, but movies are funny that way. We tend to side with the person who has heart more than the person who has logic. And in this house, Buck has heart while Cindy carries pressure. So she stands there reasonable but distant. And that is probably why I think Cindy is the right way to end this list. Not loud, not extreme, just an adult who is right but still exhausting. And sometimes in family movies, just like in real life, that is the hardest kind of character to deal with, not someone you fully hate, but definitely not easy to love either. So that is the whole list. But if you are still here, I want to give you 5 really interesting behind-the-scenes details from Uncle Buck, because sometimes it is those small things that make a movie stay with you longer. The first thing I really love is that the relationship between Buck and Miles off screen felt just as warm as it did on screen. Macaulay Culkin later remembered John Candy as someone with a very fatherly energy, someone attentive and caring. So when you look back at their scenes, you are not just seeing good acting, you are seeing something genuinely warm. The second thing that changed how I see the movie is Tia. Jean Louisa Kelly said she stepped into the role very naturally because in real life, she was going through that same feeling of being lost after a change in environment. And suddenly Tia is no longer just the difficult niece. She becomes a very real kid. The third one is a lot lighter. The scenes where Shanice gets frustrated with Buck were actually hard to film seriously because John Candy kept making Amy Madigan almost break into laughter. I love that detail because it makes their chemistry feel even more genuine. The fourth is a fun little Hollywood detail from 1989. Gabby Hoffman and Amy Madigan Maisie and Shanice and Uncle Buck also played mother and daughter in Field of Dreams that same year. Old movies are sometimes fun because of these little connections. And finally, Pooter the Clown originally got an even longer beatdown from Buck on the lawn, but that scene was cut from the final version. Honestly, just imagining it already feels like a loss. And that wraps up today's list. But at the end of the day, loving or hating a character is never completely right or wrong. Every viewer brings their own memories, personality, and experiences, so if your opinion is different from mine or from the majority, that is completely normal. In fact, that is exactly what keeps old movies worth talking about. So if you think I ranked someone too high or too low, feel free to say it in the comments. I really want to hear which side you are on, who you like more, who annoys you more, and why. There is no absolute right or wrong here, just different perspectives from people who still love movies in their own way. If you find this topic interesting, let me know which movie you want me to cover next. And do not forget to subscribe because I have plenty more lists like this I want to sit down and share with you.